2022, excuse me. A little hoarse this evening. City Hall Council chambers will remain closed to the public in accordance with Assembly Bill 361. All members of the City Council and City staff will join the meeting via phone or video conference, and no teleconference locations are required. Audio video broadcast, the City Council meeting can be accessed in real time from your computer, tablet, or your smartphone at the following links: Cable Comcast channel 96, City's YouTube page, or you can go to the City's website and get the Zoom link. And all the IDs there. Or the phone links too. How to comment during the public meeting. Public comments will be taken at the time of each eligible agenda item. If you are a Zoom video conference participant, to comment by Zoom video conference, click the raise your hand button to request to speak when public comment is being taken on an eligible agenda item. You will be then unmuted, during your turn and allowed to make public comments. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. If you are a phone participant, to comment by phone, please call on one of the above listed numbers on the city's webpage. You will be prompted to raise your hand by pressing *9 to request to speak when public comment is being taken on an eligible agenda item. You will then be unmuted during your turn and allowed to make public comments. Then you can press *6 to unmute yourself in order to speak. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. All attendees shall be muted upon entry to the meeting. Please do not raise your hand if the item currently being heard is not the item you wish to speak on. We will call for public testimony on each item individually. When the item you are interested in is called and public speakers are invited to raise their hands, raise yours then, and we'll call you in the order the hands are raised. You may, of course, speak on multiple items, but your comments during each item must address the item currently under discussion. Speakers attempting to speak about items other than the item currently under consideration will be muted and asked to wait for the item they're here to speak about to be called. If there is any disruption in the if there is any disruption to the meeting, the live feed to YouTube and channel 96 will be paused for a short period of time. Once the disruption is corrected, the live feed will resume and the meeting will continue where it left off. Let's see, do we have Mr. Yamas yet?
Not yet, Mr. Mayor. I was going to call him. There he is. He just
perfect timing. I just got done with all the Zoom instructions. All right. So, seeing no invocation today, we will call the meeting to order at 6:08 p.m. and ask Police Chief Breezy to lead us in pledge.
Mr. Mayor, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Roll call, Ms. Melanie.
Jones,
Present.
Lambert,
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Lamas,
Here.
Faria.
Here. We have a quorum. Item 4, consideration and approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lewis and a second by Councilmember Yamas to approve the agenda as submitted. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Agenda has been approved. We'll start this evening off with a number of presentations. The first will be certificates of recognition. I understand that our first one, Mr. Fernandez, is not here this evening, but I will read his recognition certificate. It is in recognition of being named City of Los Banos 2021 Employee of the Year. We congratulate Efren Fernandez on that award. Next, we have two city employees who were nominated to be Employee of the Year. And one is Carlos Granillo, and I saw him online. And the other is Mario Enriquez, and I see that he is online as well. And these are certificates of recognition, once again, in recognition of being nominated City of Los Banos 2021 Employee of the Year. And if either one would like to say a word or two, you're welcome to. Carlos?
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and all city staff for the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. Well earned. Mario, Mr. Enriquez, would you like to say a word or two? I see he's there, but I don't see a face. All right. Well, thank you once again, and congratulations. We have over 150-something employees in the city. That's quite an honor. All right, let me get my other form here now. We have a number of proclamations. These are recognizing city commissioners. And let me go to my page for that. And that is, first we have a proclamation recognizing Dennis Reed as Airport Commissioner member. Whereas Dennis Reed was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Airport Commission January 15th, 2020. And whereas Dennis Reed faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Airport Commission. And whereas Dennis Reed was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Airport Commission and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the Commission. And whereas Dennis Reed fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Airport Commission on December 31st, 2021, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council, members of the City of Los Banos, do hereby recognize and commend Dennis Reed for his dedicated service as member of the Los Banos Airport Commission. And I don't, is Mr. Reed with us this evening?
Yes, that's me. That's Elder Dre. That's my Buffalo Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to say a word or two?
Yes, it's an honor and a privilege to serve, and I want to thank you and the City Council for the recognition. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you for your hard work for our city. Now we have two Measure H recognitions, and that is these are going to go to Kathy Ballard and Roger Pruitt. And proclamation recognizing Kathy Ballard and Roger Pruitt, Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. Whereas Kathy Ballard was, and I'll do one at a time here because each one has a separate certificate. Whereas Kathy Ballard was appointed to serve as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on January 15th, 2020. And whereas Kathy Ballard faithfully attended regular meetings of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. And whereas Kathy Ballard was a dedicated member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee and continually provided her support to the goals and missions of the committee. And whereas Kathy Ballard fulfilled her term as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on December 31st, 2021. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Kathy Ballard for her dedicated service as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. And we have the same certificate for Mr. Pruitt. Whereas Roger Pruitt was appointed to serve as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on January 15, 2020. Whereas Roger Pruitt faithfully attended regular meetings of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. And whereas Roger Pruitt was a dedicated member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the committee. And whereas Roger Pruitt fulfilled his term as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee on December 31st, 2021, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Roger Pruitt for his dedicated service as a member of the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. And would either or both, Ms. Ballard and Mr. Pruitt, like to say a few words? Ms. Ballard? You're still on mute. There we go. That's it.
Hi, sorry, I have to have my IT guy everywhere I go. I just want to thank you for the recognition. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Is Mr. Pruitt on? I don't see him. No, well, thank you, Mr. Pruitt, as well. Oh, Ms. Mallory?
I don't see him either.
Okay, very good. So, I keep putting the sheet over there and I'm not done with you. Now we have the Measure P Committee. And we have two Measure P Committee proclamations here. One is for Mark Bodley and the other is for Tim McNally. Whereas Mark Bodley was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on January 2nd, 2019. And whereas Mark Bodley faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Measure P Committee, and whereas Mark Bodley was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the committee. Whereas Mark Bodley fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on December 31st, 2021, now therefore be it proclaimed that Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Mark Bodley for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee. And same for proclamation recognizing Tim McNally. Whereas Tim McNally was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on January 2nd, 2019. And whereas Tim McNally faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Measure P Committee. And whereas Tim McNally was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the committee. Whereas Tim McNally fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee on December 31st, 2021. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council, members of the City of Los Banos, do hereby recognize and commend Tim McNally for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Measure P Committee. And Mr. Bodley, are you here this evening? I don't see him. Mr. McNally? Tim? Worked with both these gentlemen extensively through the years. The Parks and Recreation, I see Mr. Spivak is on. And we have a proclamation recognizing Dr. Spivak, Dr. John Spivak, Parks and Recreation Commission member. Whereas John Spivak was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on January 15, 2020. And whereas John Spivak faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission. And whereas John Spivak was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the commission. And whereas John Spivak fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission on December 31st, 2021. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend John Spivak for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Parks and Recreation Commission. He's our only Parks and Rec person tonight. Would you like to say a word or two, John?
Thank you, Mayor Freya, and thanks to the council members for the recognition. Much appreciated. I do want to also say I'm really pleased with the direction that Parks and Recreation has taken, especially under the operation of Joe Heim. I think he's done a wonderful job in terms of planning and working really hard. There have been a lot of nice events, including the opening of the dog park, at which I saw Nicole as well. Appreciate Nicole's support for all this. But and finally, I want to thank the council in advance for the support you will give in the upcoming year to green space and recreational programs, because those are two things that really make for the quality of life in Los Banos. And so I continue to thank you for your support. The more support you can give us, the better. We'd love to keep the parks maintained as best as we possibly can and have the best recreational programs that we can for people young and old. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spivak. Thank you for all you've done. You have been instrumental for many, many years in making Los Banos a better place to live with all your work. So we appreciate that. Now we'll move on to our tree commission members, recognizing their, I'm using my computer for these tonight. There we go. First, we have proclamation recognizing Laurel Heaton, Tree Commission member. Whereas Laurel Heaton was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission on January 15, 2020. And whereas Laurel Heaton faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Tree Commission. And whereas Laurel Heaton was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Tree Commission and continually provided her support to the goals and missions of the Commission. And whereas Laurel Heaton fulfilled her term as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission on December 31st, 2021, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Laurel Heaton for her dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission. And finally, our final proclamation here is for Trinidad Ramos. Whereas Trinidad Ramos was appointed to serve as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission on January 15, 2020. And whereas Trinidad Ramos faithfully attended regular meetings of the Los Banos Tree Commission. And whereas Trinidad Ramos was a dedicated member of the Los Banos Tree Commission and continually provided his support to the goals and missions of the Commission. And whereas Trinidad Ramos fulfilled his term as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission on December 31st, 2021, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby recognize and commend Trinidad Ramos for his dedicated service as a member of the Los Banos Tree Commission. And do we have Ms. Heaton or Mr. Ramos on tonight? I see neither and hear neither. So thank you very much for your great service. So we will move on to item 6, reorganization of the City Council, selection of the Mayor Pro Tem. The law requires that we select the Mayor Pro Tem after each election. But in Los Banos, it's been pretty traditional that we do it on an annual basis. And so looking back at the Mayor Pro Tems, I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Lewis for her outstanding work as Mayor Pro Tem. She has represented me in the city when I have not been able to attend things and has done an outstanding job. She has carried the gavel for a meeting or two for me and done an outstanding job. And she is highly dedicated to this city, and we very much appreciate this term that she has given us as Mayor Pro Tem. Looking back in my Mayor Pro Tem list, looking back on our districts, District 2 has had Mayor Pro Tem twice. District 4 has had a Mayor Pro Tem twice, 3 times actually. District 1 has only had a Mayor Pro Tem once. And so Mr. Lambert is District 1, and I would like to put this in a form of a motion to select Mr. Ken Lambert as Mayor Pro Tem for 2022. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you very much. I have a motion by the Mayor, second by Councilmember Lewis, to appoint Mr. Ken Lambert to Mayor Pro Tem seat. Mr. Lambert, would you accept?
Mr. Mayor, I would definitely accept and with honors.
Okay, very well. Then I will go ahead and call for the roll call vote. Ms. Maloney?
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria,
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Lambert. And thank you. Now we will move on to the public forum. Members of the public may address the City Council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines on how to participate and make comments are listed on pages 1 and 2 of this agenda. Comments received prior to the meeting will be read into the record at the appropriate time during the City Council meeting. So we will now go to City Clerk Maloney to see if we have any written comments or any Zoom comments, whichever order you'd like to take them in. I do see some hands raised. Should I go to those first, Ms. Maloney?
I don't think I received any emails throughout the day, but let me see if any's come in while we were going through the meeting. And I see no comments by email.
Okay, very good. So I will go through then. I see 3 hands raised. The first one I see is Dr. Spivak.
Thank you again, Mayor Freya. Today I'm speaking on behalf of the Los Banos Rotary Club, which is working on a memorial for Colleen Menifee. I think probably almost everybody in this meeting here has been touched in some way by Colleen, who passed away last year, either on the school board, the tree commission, friends of the library, and so forth and so on. So and she was a Rotarian for many years, one of the first women in the Los Banos Rotary Club. So we've been working with both the county and the city, and we have an approved plan to install 2 standard city benches in front of the library on a platform of concrete, and to have a tree planted in between those 2 benches. This would be in front of the library as you walk into the right. And we have talked with Joe Heim and Mike O'Brien. We've also talked with Annie Taylor of the library, county library. We've also talked with interim city manager Gary Breezy, and we've got the okay, I believe, from current city manager Josh Laurel to move forward. So we're all set to go. We should begin working on this in early February. The reason I come to the council is to encourage the community of Los Banos to contribute to this project. Total cost will be approximately $5,000. Benches are not cheap in order to make sure that they are standard and handle-proof. And that also includes the tree, the staking, and other things. And so we are encouraging folks to contribute to this project, to the Colleen Menifee Memorial. And to do so, it's very simple. You just send a check to the Los Banos Rotary Club at Post Office Box 19 in Los Banos, and then make your check out to the West Side Foundation. The West Side Foundation is a 5013C, so all donations will be tax deductible. If anyone has any questions or wants to know more about it, they can refer to the Los Banos Enterprise, where a certain columnist has written a long story about this. But the key thing is we would appreciate donations of any amount. And again, just by check, Post Office Box 19, Los Banos Rotary Club, and please make it out to the West Side Foundation to make sure it's tax deductible. Thank you for the time today, Mayor and council members.
Thank you, Dr. Spivak, and thank you for keeping Mrs. Menifee in our memories. Sandra Benetti, Mrs. Benetti.
Hi, good evening, council members, Mayor. Congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Lambert on your appointment. Sandra Benetti here on behalf of Peninsula Clean Energy. I'm present before you this evening just to provide some information to Los Banos residents, specifically those with rooftop solar systems regarding their energy service. So Peninsula Clean Energy is a public agency that purchases energy from clean sources and passes savings on to its customers. The Los Banos City Council voted to join Peninsula Clean Energy in 2020, and Peninsula Clean Energy will begin serving Los Banos residents and businesses this April. Los Banos customers who have rooftop solar electric systems will automatically enjoy benefits with Peninsula Clean Energy, including better pricing, closer tracking of energy use, and rolling over credits the following month. And I also want to remind folks that our first virtual workshop regarding enrollment for Los Banos is tomorrow, Thursday, January 20th at 6 p.m. This particular workshop is specific for customers with rooftop solar systems, which we call NEM, or Net Energy Metering customers. And folks can still register for this virtual workshop by visiting our website, which is penncleanenergy.co/solar_workshop. So in this workshop, Peninsula Clean Energy staff will cover how solar billing works. We'll show samples of PG&E bills for solar customers, go over changes to the energy bill when you join Peninsula Clean Energy this year, as well as we'll have a Q&A session to answer any questions folks might have. But I also want to mention that Los Banos residents who do not have solar will still automatically benefit in 2022 as well. So we'll have additional general workshops regarding enrollment for Los Banos residents and businesses. That will be announced soon. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benetti. Ms. Ballard. Mute. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, you did it without Walt.
I did it without Walt, yay. I wanted to make a comment at the public forum in regards to our closed meetings. As you can see, it's really hard for me to technically do this, to follow these city council meetings. I'm also the first meeting of the month. I am part of Vital, so I am across the street from City Hall. It was easy for me to leave that meeting and then go to City Hall. I can't do that anymore because of how we set up our meetings. I wish they would be open again. I know there's a lot of cities and a lot of other places that have open meetings. My Vital meeting is open for all of the members there. And it's even hard for your recognitions, people to, talk or receive their proclamations. It's very distant. So it's just requesting again to open up our meetings and make it more accessible to the people of Los Banos. And that's all I wanted to bring up.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ballard. And thank you for your volunteer work at Vital. Very good. Ms. Maloney, do we have anything else come in through the email?
No, I've received no additional comments.
All right. Thank you. So at this point, we will close the public forum and we will move on to consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. Ms. Maloney?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 230511 through 230614 in the amount of $332,283.42. Minutes for the City Council meeting of December 15th, 2021. City Council Resolution number 6448, reauthorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the City of Los Banos pursuant to provisions of AB 361. City Council Resolution number 6449, appointing members to the Measured Peace Citizens Oversight Committee, Mark Bodley and Tim McNally. City Council Resolution number 6450, authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Monument for right-of-way and surveying services for the Pioneer Road Widening Project. City Council Resolution number 6451, authorizing the release of unclaimed checks pursuant to California Government Code Section 50050 and 50053 to the City of Los Banos. City Council Resolution number 6452, authorizing the city manager to charge a flat rate for late penalties for delinquent water, wastewater, and solid waste services. City Council Resolution number 6453, approving the application submission for the Rural Recreation and Tourism Program Grant. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney. We'll go through council, see if council would like to put in the items for discussion or a separate vote. Mr. Jones?
No items, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
No items, dear Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
No items, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. And Mr. Yamas?
No items, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So I have none to pull either. So Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mayor, Councilmember Lambert, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert. Do I have a second?
Mayor, Councilmember Jones, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert and a second by Councilmember Jones to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I'll move on to item 9, and this is the second reading and adoption. Consideration of approval of ordinance number 1193, approving a pre-annexation development agreement between the City of Los Banos and AMG and Associates LLC for the annexation of approximately 28.5 acres, generally located at the southeast corner of Overland Avenue and Johnson Road, more specifically identified as Assessor's Parcel Number 081-110-007, AMG Industrial Business Park Annexation. And for that, we go to Community and Economic Development Director, Souza Elms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So I'm going to keep this pretty brief. Back on January 5th, the City Council held a public hearing and closed the public hearing and adopted resolution number 6444, approving a subsequent mitigated negative declaration and associated mitigation monitoring program for AMG and Associates. At that same meeting, the City Council waived the first reading and introduced ordinance number 1193. So tonight, staff is asking that the City Council would waive the second reading and adopt ordinance number 1193, authorizing the execution of a pre-annexation development agreement between the City of Los Banos and AMG and Associates. This is relative to the property that's located on the southeast corner of Overland Avenue and Johnson Road. This is right across the street from Kagome. And it is zoned industrial in accordance, it's designated industrial in accordance with our general plan. So with that, that concludes my report. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Elms. Council, I know we discussed this extensively last meeting. If anyone had any comment or question, if you'd like to raise your hand, we'll do it that way, since we've had extensive discussion on the item already. Okay, seeing no hands raised, Chair will entertain a motion to waive the second reading of ordinance 1193.
Mayor, Councilmember Jones here. I'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading of ordinance number 1193 as read by title.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'll second the motion.
Thank you very much. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilmember Lewis to waive the second reading of ordinance 1193. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. We'll go back to Mr. Jones. Would like to make the motion to adopt?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to adopt ordinance number 1193 as read by title.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, second by Councilmember Lewis to approve ordinance number 1193 as read. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Alms, for your hard work on this, bringing in land for jobs. And that's great. That's great stuff. Great news for our citizens. All right. We will now move to item 10, consideration of approval of ordinance number 1194, adding chapter 3.2, organic waste disposal reduction, to title 6, sanitation and health, of the Los Banos Municipal Code. And this will be for a second reading and adoption. And for this, we go to interim Public Works Director Bowersox. Ms. Bowersox?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This item will actually be presented to you today by Operations Manager William Vai. But the item that we have for you tonight is consideration of the approval of ordinance 1194 and waiving the second hearing for this particular ordinance. So I will go ahead and hand this over to William, who I believe is on this with us.
There he is.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm going to also be very brief tonight. This is basically in regards to the requirements of SB 1383, the organic waste reduction law from the state. So basically, this is just an ordinance that gives us the enforcement power to do what we're already doing, which is requiring everybody to separate their organic waste from their other the two other materials in the solid waste stream. And our recommendation, as Ms. Bowersock said, is to waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance. And that concludes my report, but I'm here for any questions that anybody may have.
Very good, thank you. Council, any question or comment? Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lai, just one question. I know this becomes effective January of this year. Is there going to be any kind of rollout of information to the public as to how we're going to accomplish this process?
Yes, and there has been some outreach and education already performed by Mid-Valley, our partner in this education, Mid-Valley Disposal, that is, but mainly to commercial businesses so far. But there will be a two-year period, excuse me, beginning, there won't be any real enforcement until January 1st, 2024. So we have 2 years to educate and perform some outreach to the residents and the businesses so that everybody knows what goes in each can.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Reed, thank you very much. I had more of a common concern regarding the access to private property. And it seems to be, it kind of is changing the relationship between the private citizen and government here, where it requires access at random, requires cooperation with the government or its agents. We're requiring private citizens to conduct certain acts inside their homes in order to comply with this ordinance, which I understand is coming from the state. I just was wondering if, that I don't want this to be some kind of a burdening or government using this ordinance in order to bring the full weight and power of the government onto an individual who may or may not understand it. We're going to have residents coming and going. They may not have the privilege of having the educational period. So I'm just concerned about that because it seems like we're turning our residents into tenants to the government. And again, it just concerns me. And then also the fee schedule. I was wondering if we could rework that fee schedule to allow for a more moderate fee, especially $250 is a huge sum. As you know, a lot of our residents are at or below the poverty line, and this is a huge impact to them. So those are just some of my concerns. I understand we're trying to reduce greenhouse gases, but somebody's got to let Mother Nature know that we can't have any more volcanic eruptions because that's going to undermine any of our efforts. So I'm just saying that in jest, but I don't see how we can use 100 years of known history to justify some of these ordinances or laws that are coming down from the state. That's all I had. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Yamas. I know a lot of people have expressed concern about state mandates. The question I get is a very small and simple one. What do you do with Keurig pods? Do you cut the pot open and dump out the coffee and put the pot in the recycle, or what do you do?
So to actually recycle the coffee that's in that pod, you would have to cut that open. If you put your coffee pod, because most of that is not organic, if it's generally the plastic with the foil top, It's not organic and it's not going to break down in the compost. So that would go in the garbage. Nobody thinks we're going to eliminate every single piece of organic waste from the landfill. The huge majority of this is that what does go in the green can no longer goes into the landfill. It all gets composted by Mid-Valley Disposal into an certified organic compost. So that's the vast majority that this bill is trying to do is remove that, because in the past that's been used as a daily cover in the landfill. So it's actually gone into the landfill and then been covered up. Even though we've been separating it, it hasn't been, it's been required, but hasn't been enforced by Cal Recycle that we remove that from the landfill. And this is just giving some past laws some teeth so that we actually remove that. And we're already doing that, as I mentioned at the last council meeting, since July 1st. We've been removing all of that, and it has been being composted.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we got 2 years to kind of learn to work with it, I guess. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one other question. Mr. Vai, at the last meeting, you had indicated that, I don't know if it's a trade-off, if we have to purchase it, but the composting material that Mid-Valley will be picking up for Los Banos, we will be getting composting back as part of the agreement. Is that something that we have to purchase back from them? And if so, is that composting going to be used in our parks and, you know, around our trees? How do we have plans as to what we're going to do with that?
We do have some plans, and it's a very good question, and I'm kind of excited about this. There will be some negotiations involved. Our current agreement calls for us to receive 1,000 cubic yards of compost or 2,000 cubic yards of mulch. Our requirement per Cal Recycle for us to procure is in the neighborhood of 3,800 tons. What our current contract calls for is about 250 tons. So there's quite a large gap there. So there'll be some negotiations with Mid-Valley Disposal on how much, and that in our contract is currently at no cost to us. So there'll be some negotiations in there. We'll have to dig into the agreement a little closer and see how much it will be provided to us at no cost. And some of that will be used in our landscaped areas that the city owns and maintains. And probably some compost, some mulch, and we'll make some of that available. Our current plans are to make some of that available to the residents. Probably we're leaning in the direction of making it available at the cleanup events. So you can bring your green waste in and drop it off and take some compost back and use it in your garden at no cost to the residents.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Lewis? Mr. Llamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had another question or thought that popped up. Mr. V, what other items is the city going to be required to procure? In other words, what other items is the citizens going to have to be forced to pay for as a result of this law? And in regards to the compost, what grade is that going to be? I know personally from experience, I purchased some from our landfill. They used to provide compost over there, and I use it on my lawn, and I got nothing but weeds out of it. So hopefully we don't have the same problem. I had some nice Kentucky bluegrass, and all of a sudden it just ruined it. So two questions there. Thank you, sir.
So I spoke with a representative from Mid-Valley Disposal. He's going to bring some samples of what's available. The mulch that they have, it's not as coarse of a mulch as we usually use. I'm going to set up a meeting with our current contractor that handles the landscaping, and I've spoken with Parks and Recreation Operations Manager, Mr. Heim, about this, to set up this meeting to see if the mulch that they have will work. The compost is certified organic, so there shouldn't be I'm not sure of the process of making the compost that the landfill used to do, but this is commercially produced organic compost. So there shouldn't be any weeds in it. The composting process generally kills any seeds of any weeds that are in there if it's done correctly. And from what I understand, Mid-Valley Disposal does it correctly. So we will check into that. We don't want to try to help the plants and make it worse by adding weeds. So, and then I'm sorry, was there another question? I lost track.
Yes, sir. What other items or products is the city or the taxpayer going to be required to purchase or procure?
So the other thing that we'll have to do as a city, citywide, is look into purchasing recycled paper products. But that's only if the recycled paper is at the same or less cost than the paper that we currently buy or non-recycled paper. So we don't have to spend anything extra to get recycled paper, but we have to look into that and then document that the price was higher if we don't go with the recycled. Other than that, it's just this compost or mulch that we have to procure. There are other options that we could do, but we're not really set up for that, as far as like purchasing some recovered greenhouse gases, some recovered methane. Some certain cities have a treatment, water treatment processes, wastewater treatment processes that can capture those greenhouse gases. We're not currently set up for that. So there are other options that we could do, but at this point, the compost and the mulch is the best way for us to proceed at this time.
Very well. It just seems concerning that the way the state's going, at this point, we're not required, but ostensibly we could be at some point required to as this progresses. But again, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Yamas. All right. Seeing no further hands up, Chair will entertain a motion to approve, waive the second reading of ordinance number 1194.
Mayor, Councilmember Jones, I'd like to make a motion to waive the second reading of ordinance number 1194 as read by title.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Lambert, second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert to waive the second reading of ordinance number 1194. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Mr. Jones, would you like to move to adopt?
Yes. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1194 as read by title.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
I second.
Very good. Well, I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, second by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert to adopt ordinance number 1194 as read. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
No.
Faria.
Yes. Motion carried 4-1. Councilmember Yamas dissenting. We shall now go to item 11. Consideration of adoption of City Council Resolution number 6454, accepting the 2020-2021 fiscal year audit reports consisting of the annual comprehensive financial report and the government auditing standards report. For this, we go to Finance Director Williams.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, what I have for you is the annual comprehensive financial report to be presented by Managing Partner Fausto Honoso with Price Page and Company.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Appreciate the opportunity to share the results of the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021. Joining me tonight is Anthony Gonzalez, who was the supervisor, the audit supervisor on our engagement team. The audit partner was Josh Giosa, who was a partner at our firm, and he oversaw the engagement. Unfortunately, he is not feeling well today, so he asked me to step in for the presentation. But I'm very familiar with the city, as I was the audit partner for a number of years. So I just want to share the results of the audit. I don't know if we need to present it on the screen or not, or if it's available, but I can start with the good news, which is that you have received an unmodified audit opinion. That is a clean audit opinion on the financial statements. And basically that an unmodified opinion states that your financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So the Governmental Accounting Standards Board sets the rules. It's your finance team's job to perform and conduct the accounting in accordance with those rules and to prepare financial statements that comply with those rules. Our job as auditors is to assess the risks of error and fraud, and then to perform tests to determine whether the financial statements contain any errors or fraud. And if so, we are required to inform the council regarding those matters. So not only have we issued an unmodified opinion, but we also don't have any findings to report to you with respect to either internal control or compliance. I said that the audit was, or I may not have shared, the audit was performed in accordance with the auditing standards that are promulgated by the American Institute of CPAs. Further, the audit is also performed in accordance with government auditing standards because you're a governmental agency and because you receive federal funding. And so our audit complied with both sets of standards. Both sets of standards, again, will require that we communicate with you internal control related matters, fraud matters, but pleased to say that we have nothing in that regard to report. So I don't plan to go through the financial statements. I did scan them before this meeting. You're, I'm sure, being kept aware and abreast of your financial condition, but it was noticeable to me the strong financial condition that you are in. I'm not surprised given the strength of your team and the guidance of this council. So I'm glad to answer any questions if anybody's had an opportunity to review financials or if there are any pages or numbers that drew your attention, but I don't, again, plan to go into any level of detail at this point.
Okay, I'll go through council for question and comment. Mr. Jones?
No questions or comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Willis?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sir, Mr. Noso, I assume that you audit quite a few government agencies. How would you rate our team? It seems like you have very good opinion of them.
Well, we do audit approximately 40 governmental agencies. That includes municipalities, counties, special districts, and the quality of your accounting is in the very top tier. But we have very few clients that have the quality of accounting and the quality of internal control, the quality of care that goes into your financial statements. As you know, you have an annual comprehensive financial report, which is beyond what you're required to have. But cities that are larger than you, some cities your size, but I wouldn't say very many, prepare financial statements in accordance with kind of an extra set of rules so that then you submit your financial statements to the Government Finance Officers Association, which reviews the financials and issues an award if your statements go above and beyond the standard requirements and you have a history of receiving that award. The expectation is that these financial statements will also receive that award from the Government Finance Officers Association.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. That's reassuring in all levels. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our finance director for heading this team. for demonstrating your subject matter expertise. And hopefully you'll stick around for many more years because we definitely need you. And this supports the fact that you're doing the city and its readiness tremendous service. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Reynoso, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I echo Councilmember Llamas's compliments and commendations. I've been here for a number of years, and I know how excellent the work Ms. Williams and her team has been. They have squared the city's finances away to the point now we are in a very strong financial position and actually able to do the things that people talked about doing for many years, but never had the financial planning and the financial foundations to do. And, building a new police station, that sort of thing, building that fire tower, bringing in all these things, fixing our roads. This is all part of our finance. Everything we do, to do anything, any good, we have to have money. And so we're very pleased and very happy to see this report. If no one has any further questions or comments, Chair will entertain a motion to adopt City Council Resolution number 6454.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Lambert here will make a motion to adopt resolution number 6454 as read.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert, do I have a second?
Mayor, Llamas, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert and a second by Councilmember Llamas to approve City Council Resolution number 6454 as read. Ms. Maloney?
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Maria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Williams, to you and your entire staff and to our entire management staff. You guys have done a beautiful job. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa, for your presentation this evening.
Thank you all and good evening.
Thank you guys so much for your comments. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Well deserved. All right, on to item 12, elimination of the Economic Development Advisory Commission. And for this, we go to Community and Economic Development Director, Souza Elms.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So with this item, staff is proposing the elimination of the Economic Development Advisory Commission. This particular commission was originally created under the advisory capacity to the redevelopment agency. And at that time, in conjunction with the redevelopment agency, the city had a partnership with Merced County Economic Development Corporation. Both agencies no longer exist. The redevelopment agency was dissolved at about 10 years ago. And then soon thereafter, so did MECEDCO, the Merced County Economic Development Corporation. So staff, in analyzing the efficiencies of our department, is proposing to eliminate the Economic Development Advisory Commission, and that just for efficiencies with the department and also the lack of projects due to the elimination of the redevelopment agency and MECEDCO. That concludes my staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll go to council for question and comment. Mr. Jones?
No comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis?
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. And Mr. Llamas?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just my comments that this was the first, I was on the EDAC in the beginning. That was my first city appointment. Back in the day when we had the RDA, and now it no longer really serves that function. And so it's time to move on. And so if there are no further question or comment, the chair will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1195, eliminating the Economic Development Advisory Commission, specifically repealing Title II, Chapter 2, Article 4 of the Los Banos Municipal Code. And the motion would be to waive the first reading.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading of ordinance number 1195.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Do I have a second?
Mayor, Councilmember Jones, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Jones, to waive the first reading of ordinance number 1195. Roll call, Ms. Melanie?
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Korea.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Go back to Ms. Lewis for the motion to introduce.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance number 1195 as read by title.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that.
Very good. I have a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Jones, to introduce ordinance number 1195. Roll call, Ms. Melanie?
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Korea.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Ordinance number 1195 has been officially introduced. Now we'll move on to item 13, our speed cushion policy review report. We will go to interim public works director Bowersox.
Good evening again, Mayor Faria and members of the City Council. The item that I have before you is for the City Council to receive the City of Los Banos speed cushion policy. I'm sorry, hang on. Speed cushion policy review prepared by Hexagon Transportation Consultants. Provide feedback and input to staff on the report. In addition, staff is also seeking direction from the City Council on the next steps to address the speed cushion policy. Before we move forward with the presentation, I would like to acknowledge the ad hoc committee composed of Council members Lambert and Lewis for actively participating during the review process and providing their input during the workshop when we discussed the draft review study. I also would like to acknowledge staff from Public Works, Police, Fire, and Economic Development for providing their feedback and input as well. I'm joined tonight by the president of Hexagon Transportation Consultants, Gary Black, who prepared the review study of the city's speed cushion policy. The review study includes the following. It's a review of the current city policy and how it compares to traffic calming policies of similar jurisdictions, particularly with regard to speed cushions. It also includes a review of roadways classified as collectors and arterials that abut driveways to evaluate the feasibility of applying speed cushions to these specific roadways. West I Street and 7th Street and Stonewood Drive were included in the study to determine if speed cushions would be the appropriate traffic calming application, and if not, identifying more effective traffic calming measures for these roadway classifications. And finally, it was also meant to develop recommendations for updating and improving the speed cushion policy. At this point, I will go ahead and hand off the presentation to Gary Black so he can discuss the review study findings and recommendations.
Okay, thank you. And good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We were contacted, Hexagon Transportation Consultants were contacted about a year ago by your then Public Works Director, Mark Fashion. And he contacted us because we had done a traffic calming study for the city of Gilroy, and he was familiar with that study. And what we did for that study was investigate the traffic calming policies of many different cities in the Bay Area and also the Central Valley. And we sort of compiled those policies to develop one for the city of Gilroy. At that time, you in Los Banos already had your speed cushion policy, but Director Fashion wanted us to evaluate that policy to see how it sort of compared to what other cities were doing. So let's have the next slide. I don't think I'm in control of the PowerPoint. There. So our study was to look at your speed cushion policy compared to other cities. And then the second part of our study was to look at West I Street, Stonewood Drive, and 7th Street to see what traffic calming measures might be appropriate for those streets. And just as an overview, I'll go through some of the details, but we found that your speed cushion policy is in line with what other cities are doing. So it pretty much matches. So next slide. So what are the traffic calming issues that these policies typically address? Number one is speeding. Some of the policies also address cut-through traffic, collisions, and truck traffic. But most address speeding. And your policy in Los Banos addresses speeding. It doesn't mention those other topics. Next slide. All of the policies have qualification criteria that streets have to meet in order to qualify for speed cushions or any traffic calming treatments. And typically, streets need to be residential or local streets. Some of the cities also apply these policies to residential collector streets, and even some cities discuss arterials in their traffic calming policies, but in every case, arterials are only eligible for what we call non-intrusive measures. And non-intrusive measures we're defining as signage and striping. And then all the cities have a threshold for defining whether speeding is occurring on the street. Those thresholds are typically between 32 and 35 miles per hour. In other words, the traffic has to be going faster than that in order for a street to qualify. Most cities also have a threshold volume, so the streets have to have volume within the range that's typical. For local streets, that's usually between 1,000 and 2,000 cars per day. ADT stands for average daily traffic. For collector streets, that would be streets classified as collectors, the typical range is 3,500 to 4,000. Here in Los Banos, your policy applies only to local streets. And in order to qualify, the 90th percentile speed needs to be higher than 35 miles per hour. What 90th percentile means is that 90% of the traffic is going at 35 miles per hour or less, and 10% is going faster than 35 miles per hour. Also, in order to qualify, the streets in Los Banos have to have daily traffic of between 500 and 2,500. Next slide. And the policies of the other cities also include a number of traffic calming measures. Some of them are just signage and striping, such as speed limit signs, things like that, which are the non-intrusive measures. There's also speed cushions. Some discuss traffic circles, narrowing of lanes, and in some cases even restrictions of movement. So there'll be no right turn, for example, or no left turn. Here in Los Banos, your policy includes only speed cushions. But I will say that speed cushions are the gold standard for reducing traffic, excuse me, on local streets. They're the most effective out of any of the traffic calming measures. Next slide. The traffic calming procedure here in Los Banos is the same as what all the other cities require. So it starts off with a citizen request. Then there's a study of the street in question to see if it qualifies according to the criteria that we talked about just a minute ago. The next step is to develop a plan. So with speed cushions, for example, there has to be a plan for where those are going to be located. Then after the plan is developed, that is put out to the neighbors, the neighborhood. And typically in the cities that we studied, the required support from the neighborhood needs to be somewhere between 50% and 70%. Different cities have different percentages. Here in Los Banos, your requirement is 70%. So 70% of the people on the street need to approve of the plan. Next slide. So Now I'll talk about the specific streets that we looked at, which are, so just before I do that, though, let me just summarize that your speed cushion policy is exactly in line with what all the other cities that we looked at, what they're doing in terms of the streets that qualify and the types of measures and the procedure. So we looked at 3 specific streets to see what might be done. These streets are not local streets, so therefore they don't qualify under your current speed cushion policy. So I'm going to just show Stonewood as an example. Stonewood is classified as an arterial street. So, but you can see that it's totally lined with residential development. And then next slide. So this is a close-up of Stonewood, and you can see, well, you probably know this street very well, but you can see that it's a very wide street. Even though it's only 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction, it's extremely wide. It's approximately 65 feet wide, and typical streets like this with 2 lanes plus a bike lane and a median would be maybe 48 feet wide, something like that. So it's excessively wide. And because of that width, that's what encourages speeding, because the motorists can see a long ways down the street. They can see there's no obstructions. The street's very wide. And so that encourages higher speeds. And I believe the speed limit on Stonewood is 35 miles per hour, at least in this section. So what we recommended, because that, even though it's not in your policy, because your policy doesn't deal with arterials, but there are ways that you could, or things that you could implement to perhaps slow down traffic on Stonewood, but not including speed cushions because they're not designed for arterial streets. And one reason that we don't, that streets or that cities do not want to install something like speed cushions on arterials is that we don't want to slow down emergency response. So we don't want to slow down fire trucks or police. And so we have to be, and we also don't want to discourage through traffic from using arterials, because through traffic belongs on arterials. And if we discourage traffic from using arterials, then the motorists are going to seek out other streets that aren't arterials, such as local streets, to try to complete their travel. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep the traffic on the arterials and not divert it to local streets. But anyway, still, without diverting traffic or slowing down emergency vehicles, a street like Stonewood could be visually narrowed. So you could put in, for example, some what we call buffers between the travel lanes and the bike lanes that will narrow the travel lanes. You could also widen the medians. And though it's very costly to physically widen the medians, you could widen them just with painting, with stripes on the street. So anything that would narrow the travel lane would tend to slow down the traffic. You can also put in speed feedback signs, which is another non-intrusive measure that a lot of cities have implemented, which just, they're electronic signs that measure the speed of traffic, and then they have a display saying how fast the cars are going. So those are the typical non-intrusive measures that you might do on an arterial street. So that's the end of my presentation, and now I'd be happy to answer any questions. As Nicole said, we want to hear what the council would like to see as next steps in this traffic calming, in the realm of traffic calming.
All right. I'll go through council for question and comment. Mr. Jones?
Mayor, I'm going to ask if you can come back to me. I'm kind of interested to hear what the rest of the council perspective is on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Lambert, any comment or question at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, I need a little bit more feedback. We went through the workshop last year, and I would sure like to get a little bit more information on this.
Okay, very good. Ms. Willis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was indicated that about buffers, but you didn't give much indication or description of exactly what a buffer is. So could you give us some more examples of what that would be?
Yes, so when we speak of buffers, they can be, that's just a separation between the travel lane and the bike lane. A physical distance. They could just be striping. They're usually at least 3 feet wide. They could just be striping, or sometimes you'll see some what we call delineators that are placed into the buffer, which are these plastic posts that can be installed. Sometimes you even see actual raised curbs as the buffer. So there are different options, but the idea is that there's just an increased separation between the bike lane and the travel lane. And what I see as the benefit of that on a street like Stonewood is that would make the travel lanes narrower, and narrower lanes will slow down traffic.
Okay, so in today's time, based on your studies, and I would assume you would be getting feedbacks from cities that you've worked with, have they given you any statistics based on some of these recommendations as to whether or not they're actually working? Because people, in today's time seem to speed whether the street is narrow or wide. And unfortunately, because we have a few neighborhoods that were built during a time where this wasn't considered, it really, I'm just curious as to whether or not some of these things would actually work. Especially, Stonewood, it's a long street. It has a couple of stop signs as you move north or south in whichever direction you're going. But stop signs don't really seem to curb people's appetite to speed. And it's the same way in another neighborhood on West I Street. I don't know if that street's considered an arterial or a collector, but I look at Highway 152 as a divider, and to me that's an invisible divider. And once you hit the south end of West I Street, it's all residential. There's no commercial whatsoever in it other than right at the beginning by the highway. On the north end of West I Street, it's mixed. You have hospital, you have commercial, you have, a few residents, and the speed limit is a lower amount on that side. It's 30 miles an hour versus the southern end past 152, which is 35 miles an hour. So, and at the stop sign of Birch and people just take off and speed as fast as they can to get to the next stop sign, which is basically a suggestion to them to stop. So, we have some real issues and problems with some of these older neighborhoods. We don't have enough coverage. Any police department can't cover every street in a neighborhood. And I understand response time for emergency vehicles, but I also understand that people's lives are important. And we've got to come to a good decision in order to protect people who live in neighborhoods where the speeding happens. And I think there are some exceptions that can be made with certain neighborhoods, and certainly some of the recommendations that you've made are quite costly over and above speed cushions. So, I think we've got a lot to consider here in regards to how we move forward on this. And I know that when I first brought this to council several years ago, Stockton was one of the was the city that I used as a criteria. And I spoke to the director of that department, and they had some really restrictive rules in the beginning, but they found out that it didn't quite work for their community, and they loosened it up with very few restrictions on qualifications. And it was based on a first come, first served basis. And every district, which are 4 districts in that city, had a pot of money that was allocated to them for their citizens to apply for speed cushions or whatever other devices that could be used. So I think, we've got to take this back to the table. The council had recommended that staff work with myself and also Councilmember Lambert. And the only thing that we've had thus far is the attending of the presentation that you made to staff. I believe that was back in June. So I think, Councilmember Lambert and I still have some work to move forward and do with staff before this is ready for council. That's all that I have, Mr. Mayor.
If you'd like me to answer the question about studies that are, like before and after studies for the effectiveness of road narrowing. Yeah, there have been studies that have assessed that. And as you suspect, Councilmember Lewis, the effect is moderate, shall we say. So there would be a reduction in speed, but it would not be equivalent to the reduction that you get from speed cushions, for example. So you'd probably see a reduction of possibly up to 5 miles per hour as, at sort of the average speed, but you'll still get, no matter what you do, you'll still get some vehicles that travel extremely fast because they physically can't. So you're correct in your sense of how that would work.
Thank you. Thank you,
Councilmember Lewis. I really appreciate all of your comments. I think we're all on the same page on this item. And so the reason why staff brought this item forth to City Council is because the scope of Hexagon's work was to review the speed cushion policy. And based on the findings of his policy, staff is seeking direction from council on the next steps. So there are some options that I would like for council to consider. You don't have to decide tonight, you can continue this item. But some of the options that we could consider doing is maintaining the existing speed cushion policy and procedure, but amending the criteria for the application. Maybe looking at the Stockton model, because they're a little bit more flexible in terms of looking at the road classification. They're not so fixated on the title of arterials or collectors, but they look at whether or not it has a residential characteristic, which is, I think, what you were looking at on the south side of 152. So I think that's definitely something that could be looked at and could be adjusted to be part of our policy. There is also the appeal process that is already part of our policy that could be reviewed in terms of not having a hard and fast no just because you didn't fit the criteria. Is there any potential for additional conversation or discussions on or consideration for a specific roadway? Because it's not a one size fits all for every situation. So we understand that as well. The other option that we could have is for the City Council also to direct staff to prepare a citywide traffic calming policy that would include some of the traffic calming measures that Gary had identified as part of his report. Right now, we're limited to just speed cushions. If there was a way we could have a guide or a policy that could be used, I think both in intrusive and non-intrusive, I think we want to be able to use all the tools available, either as alone, as a standalone option for mitigation, or as a combination. And then finally, there is also the option for the City Council to direct staff to prepare a systemic safety analysis report That would actually include a collision analysis, identifying safety issues on our roadway networks, and then developing a list of systemic low-cost countermeasures that we could use and possibly apply for grant funding if it becomes available. So there are many other options that we could consider, but we wanted to just have you receive the report because it is completed, because it's very specific to speed cushions, and we just need direction on how you would like for us to proceed.
And I appreciate your analysis and input. And certainly as we build out our new neighborhoods, it could be incorporated that developers will be required to do control measures for speeding and making the neighborhoods easily for people to travel through, but the neighborhoods being more safe. But I think in this particular incident, it's a specific thing regarding the speed cushion. Staff had already given direction. Council had already given direction to staff to work with myself and Mayor Pro Tem Lambert. And I'd like to continue that process. And as we have discussion, if something else comes up further, then, we can discuss it and then bring it back to council for their decision on how they want to handle it. But on this particular item, I'd like to see us move forward in the direction that council has already given staff, which is to work with the two council members so that we can, try to smooth this portion out. I think there's a bigger picture of this, all together with the things that you suggested, which I'm amenable to, but I don't think that's what we have to look at tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Mr. Yamas and then come back around.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Black. Very informative, a lot of good information here. I had a question regarding the threshold, 50 to 70%. Do you have any information or feedback as to whether or not that, how helpful that is, or if that's a detriment, or anything that could help guide us to establish what that threshold should be?
I don't have any experience with Los Banos in particular, whether that threshold has stopped some streets from getting speed cushions because they couldn't garner the support. So I can't answer that question. I can just say that your requirement of 70% is in line with what other cities require.
Second question is that you said that we only consider through traffic in our, correct? So I'd like to see us consider all three of those categories, if possible. And that's really all I have. I look forward to continue work and continue input by Mrs. Bowersox, which just will be critical in providing a good, workable program for those Banos. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Come back around, Mr. Jones.
Yes, thank you. I just need to hear more on this. I'm just afraid that we're spending a lot of staff time on here, and I'm really wondering what we're going to be able to do about some of these older streets that have houses facing some of these larger roads. I start thinking that sometimes we can't really do too much. We put speed bumps or speed cushions on every street out there, and it just becomes a mess. And then I'm also wondering what, say, council's going to have in actually placement of any speed cushions, because if councils have the authority to say, hey, I want a speed cushion on this street, I would assume we'd have the say to remove a speed cushion too. So it seems like every time we get new council in, we could be adding speed cushions, taking away speed cushions, and just becoming a mess. So on this, I'm going to be very big on sticking to a policy and having staff that has their hands on this every day help guide council into making the best decisions, because let's face it, we can't put bubble wrap on everything. So I just hope the policy of what you guys are wanting changed or amended is give staff the flexibility to handle this, so it doesn't come in front of council every time we want to talk about adding speed cushions here on this street and that street and everywhere in between. So it's the only thing I'm afraid of is how much time we're investing into this. So when we need our staff to invest in our big projects. So, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. Mr. Lambert?
So, and I do agree, but there are, so I'm going to go back to the workshop. And on Stonewood, I believe we had already done a police study of speed. And I believe our speed was actually averaged throughout those speed study at an average of 42 miles per hour in that area. And that's through the Ranchwood Park area. So I understand that, yes, we need to watch how much time we put into it, but we need to get to a correct policy that we can, once we submit it and we pass it, it needs to be correct and done, and hopefully everything put in the way it needs to be. There are some changes. Everything, I mean, I do understand Ms. Bowersox, everything was good. I know the study was good, but there are just a few little things that I would have rather had a chance to go over. And I think possibly we might be able to amend with Ms. Bowersox.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks. I see a couple of hands up. Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just forgot to ask one question of Mr. Black. I'm not sure what they're called, but they're either cylindrical, smooth, kind of like divots on a street, or sometimes they're long, about 18 inches long, which kind of act like a little wake-up call as you come into an intersection. How effective are those in your experience? Is that something that could be used in some of these wider streets?
Yes, those are called chatter bars, and hence the problem with them. They're extremely noisy, and so whenever a vehicle runs over those, it makes a tremendous amount of noise. And so you'll see chatter bars deployed on streets to control speed in, say, industrial areas or, places where there aren't any people living, so there's nobody to hear the noise. But those wouldn't work in a residential setting.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Very good. And I see Ms. Lewis's hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a final comment. I think it's important, at least it's important to me, that when we're doing things in our city, sometimes I think we get overly cautious about how much staff time we're spending to do stuff. But if we had spent the staff time originally to get this straight, we wouldn't be back here today doing this. And sometimes, as you move forward, you make an ordinance for something and it may need to be modified, and that takes staff time. That's any city does that. We're not unique to that. So I just want to precaution us to not always think about these are little things and we have bigger pictures of things to do in our city. We have small things to do, we have big things to do, and all of it takes staff time. So I would like to hopefully see this be something that we could get corrected, maybe make a few tweaks on it to help some of our neighborhoods. Stone Creek's not the only street. There are others that have applied and were denied because they didn't meet a certain criteria. So all I'm saying is that, we have to just revisit this, make some tweaks on it. And as Mrs. Bowersox said, one size doesn't fit all. And so there has to be a bit of adjustment to allow certain areas to receive the benefit of feeling safe and being safe in their community without feeling like if they cross the street, somebody's going to run over them before they get to midway. So that's my take on it. And so if there are no other comments, I'd like to make a motion on this item.
I just have a couple of comments before we go to a motion, and that is that we obviously need to move forward a little bit here and get, but we need to get some things done. I think there are 3 stages there's stuff that needs to be done now, which I think the 70% I think is too much. I'd like to see that changed. Yeah, I think if the majority or a majority of the people on the street want some traffic calming, I think they should be able to get it. And so that would be more immediate. Then we've got the other stage is to deal with the overall various problems of the various city streets in town that do have speeding issues, and we know there are quite a few. And then the third stage is the preparation of our ordinances for future development, so that we make sure that we solve those problems before they happen in the future. So those are just my recommendations. Ms. Lewis, if you'd like to make a motion, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to bring this item back to council at a date not certain at this point, to allow Councilmember Lewis and Mayor Pro Tem Lambert to work with staff as directed by council. I believe it was back in 2000. I can't remember if it was 2000 or 2001, to do some tweaking and adjusting on this ordinance.
All right. Motion by Ms. Lewis. Do I have a second to that motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Lambert will second it.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Lewis and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert to continue the item, continue the ad hoc committee working with staff and the consultant to bring this back at a date uncertain in the future. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Bowersox and Mr. Black, for presentation this evening. Hopefully we get these challenges solved.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to go to item 14, and this is DLA, RDA, DLA stuff. And it is the acceptance of grant deeds from the Los Banos Designated Local Authority, the DLA, as successor agency to the former Los Banos Redevelopment Agency, RDA, to the city of Los Banos. And there are two items that will require action and motion. City Council Resolution number 6455, accepting the grant deed from the Los Banos DLA as successor agency to the former Los Banos RDA, the city of Los Banos, a 3.2 acre parcel located on 2nd Street and 4th Street and between G Street and H Street, currently zoned Rail Corridor RC, assessor's parcel number 025-054-005, developed with a public walking trail. And the second item is going to be City Council Resolution number 6456, accepting the grant deed from the Los Banos DLA as successor agency to the former Los Banos RDA to the city of Los Banos, a 6.5 acre parcel located between Ward Road and Place Road, currently zoned Rail Corridor RC, assessor's parcel number 083-100-067, developed with a public walking trail. And for these items, we go to City Attorney Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening, everybody. This is, again, a long line of properties that we have been considering accepting from the DLA. There are two more before you tonight, and this item, number 14. Both of these parcels are rail trail, walking trail parcels. They just happen to be on both sides of the trail. The 025, 054, 005 is on the 2nd Street side of the trail to the west of the city, and 083, 100, 067 is on the Ward Road side of the city to the very east of the rail trail. They're both rail trail properties. I've done the due diligence on them. There's maps of the two properties in your staff report. And on December 15th, we received a condition of title guarantee from Trans-County Title. I've examined both of those title guarantees for both of these properties, and there are no exceptions to the title that would be major concerns in terms of accepting these properties. Both properties are subject to a land use covenant because of the presence of arsenic, and land use covenant, as I've mentioned to you before, prohibits the use of the property without further cleanup for residential purposes. Certainly, continued use as walking trails consistent with the LUC, and so there's nothing in the land use covenant that is of concern, assuming that these properties maintain their character as a walking trail. So with that, your staff is recommending that you approve resolution 6455 and 6456. And I'm here, I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
I would make one last comment. We're getting down to the end of these properties. The ones tonight are the last bundle of properties that have been approved by the DLA for transfer to the city. If you recall, a number of months ago, the DLA representatives came to gauge your interest in 3 other properties, which are primarily located over on the 2nd Street side of the city. But those properties are undergoing cleanup right now, and we'll probably see, and they will have to go through the Department of Finance and through the Oversight Board to get to this stage, and we'll probably see those later this year. But for now, it looks like if things go forward tonight, you have accepted all of the properties that are ready for acceptance.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. It's been a long road.
Lots of properties. I didn't realize, but there's actually, you've accepted 12 already. They're quite a job to get ready to get to this stage by a lot of people other than myself. And so after tonight, we'll have accepted 15 of these properties over the last probably 15 months.
The documents laid out are probably longer than the rail trail. So.
Well, now the fun begins. You guys can start deciding what to do with the future development parcels to enhance the rail trail. So there's, this is just the first step in getting those under your control and moving forward with the development of those parcels that are set for future development.
Very good. So we'll go to council for question comment first. Mr. Jones?
No questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert.
No questions, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Lewis?
No questions, thank you.
Very good. And Mr. Yamas?
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn, for all the hard work. No other questions, comments. Thank you.
Very good. So Chair will entertain a motion to approve City Council Resolution number 6455 as read.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Lambert, make a motion to adopt resolution number 6455 as read.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Yamas, I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert and a second by Councilman Yamas to approve City Council Resolution number 6455 as read. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes. Motion carried unanimously. Chair will entertain a motion for City Council Resolution to adopt City Council Resolution number 6456.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6456 as read by title.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Councilmember Jones, I'd like to second that.
Okay, I got Mr. Jones. So I have a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Jones to approve City Council Resolution number 6456 as read. Ms. Maloney?
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes, motion carried unanimously. And at this moment, we will go to Mayor Pro Tem Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I have been advised by the city attorney that since my place of business is within 500 feet of this property, I cannot participate in this item, and I'll be checking off.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. We'll see you back on the other side. Give him a moment to log off. Looks like he is off. All right.
So yes, Mayor, Council, this is the third of the three properties for tonight. This property is a small property along G Street that was planned for the 9th Street extension. And it is the last property that I'll be bringing to you in a while. Like the other two that you considered tonight, we received a title guarantee, condition of title guarantee on this property from Trans-County Title. And once again, there are no exceptions to the title, which would be a major concern in accepting this property from the DLA. And like the other properties, this property is subject to a land use covenant because of the presence of arsenic on the property that has been cleaned up, but only to a level that will allow commercial development as opposed to residential development. So it's a smaller parcel wedged between, I think, 3 parcels that you've already accepted. So there's a map in your staff report showing you the exact location of this parcel. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Hey, council, any question or comment if you want to raise your hand on this one? Pretty much the same item, same items. All right, seeing no hands raised, Chair will entertain a motion to approve City Council Resolution number 6457, accepting the grant deed. I don't think I read this one all out yet, so let me read it out for the record. Accepting the grant deed from the Los Banos DLA as successor agency for the former Los Banos RDA to the City of Los Banos, a 0.18 acre parcel located on G Street and 9th Street, future, currently zoned Rail Corridor RC, assessor's parcel number 025-114-005, undeveloped. Now Chair can entertain a motion.
Mayor, Councilmember Jones, like to adopt City Council Resolution 6457 as submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do I have a second?
Almost all second that, sir.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilmember Yamas to approve City Council Resolution number 6457. Roll call, Ms. Melanie.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert, Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Maria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
On for all your hard work. And now we'll give Mayor Pro Tem Lambert a moment to log back on. While doing that, we have some really cool renderings we did with a consultant for that rail trail way back in the day. And there's some, man, there's some beautiful stuff. We spent some time with a consultant, and man, that rail trail, if we were able to fulfill that, that would be one of the most beautiful spots in the state.
In the state.
In the state.
All right.
Los Banos is one of the most beautiful spots in the state. We have some stuff around here that nobody else has. Between our grasslands and our hills and our rivers and our lakes.
Concur.
I'm an outdoorsman, so this is an outdoorsman's playground. 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes from fishing, and hunting, and bird watching, all that good stuff. I love it very, very much. I don't see Mr. Lambert back yet, so I'll continue stalling until he arrives. I can talk about the beauty of Los Banos for years. You go out, in mornings on those marshes, it's just beautiful. And we even have our own herd of elk. I mean, what city can boast its own herd of elk? We have them in an enclosure, and we have wild elk right here in Los Banos. There he is. Give his computer an opportunity to finish its connection. Well, man, we're in kind of a special place here. We don't get as much fog as most of the rest of the valley in our area. Our summers cool off in the evenings. It's a nice place. All right. Looks like Mr. Lambert is back with us. We're going to move on to item 16. And we're going to be appointing commissioners to the following commissions. And each one will be a separate action. And I'll make the motion for the appointment, and then I'll take a second from a council member for that. Parks and Recreation Commission, 2 vacancies. There are two-year terms expiring December 31st, 2023. And I would like to put in the form of a motion to appoint Leonardo Cortez and John Spivak to Parks and Recreation Commission. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
We have a motion by the mayor and a second by Councilmember Banos to appoint Leonardo Cortez and John Spivak to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And item B, Measure H, Citizens Oversight Committee. There are 4 vacancies. We have only one to appoint today. I'd like to move to appoint Kathy Ballard to that committee. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by the mayor, second by Councilmember Banos to appoint Kathy Ballard to Measure H, Citizens Oversight Committee. Ms. Maloney, roll call.
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried unanimously. Item C, Tree Commission. We have 3 vacancies, but only 1 appointment to make. It's opportunity this evening. Mark Kohler, he is actually a landscaper by trade for many, many years and has many years of experience in landscaping and trees. So this is a great opportunity for us, and we're pleased that he applied for this position. So I move to appoint Mark Kohler to the Tree Commission. Do I have a second?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by the mayor and a second by Councilmember Lewis to appoint Mark Kohler to the Tree Commission. Ms. Maloney, roll call, please.
Jones?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lamas?
Yes.
Faria?
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Note that we still have vacancies on the Airport Advisory Commission, the Tree Commission, and the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee. We have 2 vacancies on Airport, 2 vacancies on Tree Commission, and 3 on Measure H. So we really want to encourage the citizens to get involved. Our residents need to we want you to be part of our city, and we really need you on these committees and commissions. So you can go online and apply, and we'll get that and get some more appointees and get these filled. And all those who serve, we thank you once again. We know that the city clerk will re-advertise these vacancies, and we, of course, encourage all to apply. Item 17, advisement of public notices. We have no report this evening. Item 18, city manager report. The city manager, Pinero.
Hello, everybody. Hello, council. Just a couple comments here. I'd like to just give a big shout out to Efren for being Employee of the Year, and Carlos and Mario for being nominees. So thank you folks so much for your hard work. I appreciate that. And also like to give a big thank you to Finance Director Williams and her staff for the continued hard work to the city of just making sure we're financially sound and in compliance. And for 7 consecutive years, we received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Reporting. So I just want to thank them for their hard work. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Pinero. We all echo your sentiments. Number 19, report and update on Merced County Association of Governments, Peninsula Clean Energy and Measure V Committee, which is me. Peninsula Clean Energy, we got a little update from Ms. Benetti. We are There's a workshop on the 20th, that's tomorrow, a virtual workshop. You can go to Peninsula Clean Energy webpage for the city. It has to do with solar power, people with solar roof systems. From what we understand, Peninsula Clean Energy offers a better deal for folks. It's a little different system, and so it's one where the citizens, the true up is not for the generation is not all annual. So that true up is, I think, on a monthly basis. But if you go to Peninsula Clean Energy website, and you can also contact Sandra Benetti at Peninsula Clean Energy, our liaison, and you can get more information about all of how that all will work. Once again, Measure B Committee, we announcing those those openings, and Merced County Association of Governments. We have a meeting tomorrow. There's nothing too exciting on the agenda there, so to report. So I'll move on to our City Council member reports, and we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, I want to apologize for my video tonight. Not sure what happened here. It was actually working earlier. Also, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of the council for this opportunity this year to fill in as Mayor Pro Tem. I do my best at it and be there when you need me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Ms. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to thank all of the members of the various committees and commissions who have served and the ones who received their awards tonight. And also, I want to thank the members of the community who have stepped forward again and applied to be on various commissions and committees. We do need your help, and so I truly appreciate that. I'd also like to congratulate Councilmember Lambert being appointed to Mayor Pro Tem. I know you'll do a good job at this office. And finally, I'd like to make a request to ask Mr. Pinero, our city manager, if he could have Dr. Yu come and give us an update on what's going on in our city and community regarding COVID and the current virus that's out there. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Yamas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all the staff, all the reports that were brought in. They're very instrumental in helping us make decisions. I want to especially thank and congratulate Officer Fernandez for working Employee of the Year and all the nominees as well. I know Officer Fernandez does an outstanding job, a vital piece of our public safety team out there. So again, and I also used to be one of my junior Marines back in the day, Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines, San Bruno. So I'm very pleased to see him recognized this way. And I'd like to echo Councilwoman Lewis's sentiment or a request for more information on the current status. Just from news reports that I've read, it seems like we're hopefully on the backside of this. It's unfortunate a lot of folks have suffered deaths and extreme injury and because of this. Hopefully we start leaning into possibly looking into allowing open city council meetings with an updated report from the doctor. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Jones.
No reports, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to everyone. And another little extra congratulations. Los Banos' graduate, G.B. Blackman, he graduated, he was one of my choir students. He's been an outstanding star in the theater world and the music world in our area. He has performed on stage in Playhouse Merced and in plays throughout the state. He has been named artistic director of Playhouse Merced. So this is very exciting. We have a lot going on in culture and the arts. And so whenever we see one of our students have an opportunity to go out and really do even more good for the world with their talent. And this young man is very talented. So congratulations, GP. You do Los Banos proud. All right. Thank you, everyone, again. One more thing before we go. I am going to put this up here because we want everyone to join the city commission. Lots of openings available. We need you. We need you on those commissions so we can run our committees and our commissions, do our full capacity for operation. All right. With that, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, so moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Mayor, Councilmember Lambert, second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilmember Lewis and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lambert to adjourn the meeting. Roll call, Ms. Melanie.
Jones,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes?
Lewis,
Yes.
Lamas,
Yes.
Faria.
Yes, motion carried unanimously. Meeting adjourned at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.